Good afternoon, Ms. Chen. Good afternoon, Mrs. Wang. Ms. Chen, are you the cousin of Peter Wang?
Yes.
Are you here today with your aunt, Wei Ying Zhang, the mother of Peter Wang?
Yes.
Ms. Chen, I'm going to show you a photograph marked States Exhibit 76. And I'm going to ask you to show it to the jury along with your aunt, please. Can you identify this as your cousin?
Yes.
Ms. Chen, it's your aunt, Peter Wang's mother, prepare a statement on behalf of the Wang and the Zhang family to be read to the jury today.
Yes.
Would you please read it for us?
My name is Linda. I am Peter Wang's mom. It is so difficult to write this letter because I don't know how to use language to express the pain of losing my oldest son, Peter. He had always made me so proud. I have 4 tattoos of Peter on my body. I get one every year on February 14th to symbolize that he is still with me, always with me. I can't accept that he is gone. How can anyone accept the death of their children when they were taken in such a way?
Miss, I don't know if the jurors can quite hear you. Can you speak? Thank you so much.
I can't fathom it. Peter was the perfect son. Everyone told me I was so lucky to have him. He was goofy, respectful, outgoing, and had a quality of giving that leaves marks in people's hearts. We have a big family. Peter grew up with his 4 cousins and 2 brothers among all the children. He was the one who went the extra mile when it came to organizing and planning. Just like what he did a month before he passed away, we went on a Disney trip. We had such a happy time with him. He held a family friend's daughter in his arm for 20 minutes so she could see the fireworks. When others offered to help, he said, "Don't worry, I'm not tired," even though I could see the sweat on his face. When the big group moved around the park, he made sure no one was left behind and asked everyone to wait for the slow ones. When family got into fights on this trip, he was able to comfort both sides of their arguments. He'd say, "It's over now, let's focus on the ride." Only 15 years old, his back was not shy to take on the weight to do more to bring comfort and happiness in everyone's life. He did it so effortlessly with a big smile on his face that can shine through darkness. Peter, we miss you every day. We miss the light that you bring into our lives. February 14, 2018. It was Valentine's Day. It was also one day away from Chinese New Year's Eve. This is the biggest holiday in our community. On Chinese New Year's Eve, the family will host a big feast hosting up to 20 people. It's time for a family reunion. Peter, like previous years, had invited his friends to come and celebrate with us. Sadly, the celebration was canceled due to this tragedy. Not only in 2018, but every year since then, and every year in the future. We no longer decorate our house or host feasts on the most important holiday in our family. It is now Peter's death anniversary. This day of unity became a day that hurts the most. To tell me that my family can never be gathered completely. Each night in bed, I wonder how life could be if Peter was still here, and I wish I could go back in time to see him again, hug him again, and kiss him again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, Ms. Chen is going to stay up here with her aunt while we bring in the next witness to testify, so there'll be 3 people sitting up here.
So we need to get one more chair. We have one right here, so we're all set when you're ready.
Aaron Chen.
There you go. Do we have one more that we can sit next to each other? No problem. We can. Good afternoon, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can go ahead and be seated. And when you're seated, please state your full name for the record.
My name is Aaron Chen, Aaronchen.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chen. Are you the cousin of Peter Wang?
I am.
And did you prepare something to be read in court today?
I did.
Will you please share it with us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Peter Wang was my cousin, but he was so much more than that. In Chinese culture, your cousins are more like your siblings, especially with the way that we grew up. We all lived close together, and we all saw each other on a daily basis. His life, despite being tragically cut short, left permanent, lifelong impacts in all of our lives. Our cousin William describes Peter like a light that shines brightly in the dark. Always the funniest and always the most caring person. Peter was like an older brother to him, in addition to his 2 actual younger brothers. Despite being younger than me and my cousin Sheeta, he always watched over us like he was the oldest. And that's a habit he picked up for being the oldest child in his family. Our family relation is first generation, and as the eldest son, it was his duty to take care of not only his younger brothers, but his parents as well, being the only bridge between them and their new country. I don't really celebrate my birthday. My birthday is on November 7th, and Peter's was on the 9th, and we compromised by celebrating together on the 8th. The last birthday party I had was for my 16th and Peter's 15th birthdays. He only had 15 birthdays. To this day, I can't celebrate my own birthday just because of the pain of not being able to do it without him. Every birthday to me is just a reminder of someone who was my brother and my best friend. Someone who I just assumed would be there for me for my whole life, but was murdered just 3 months after. I remember the day Peter was killed. I was in complete denial. I didn't want to accept reality as reality. I thought if I could just find Peter and bring him home, then it would have been like nothing happened at all. Words can't not describe the pain and emotion as we found out Peter was dead. I saw Peter's mom falling out of the car she was in, crying and shrieking. The cries I heard from Peter's parents that night still stick with me like it was yesterday. That was the day I stopped looking at my parents, uncles, and aunts as all-powerful adults, but just as people, just as hard as I was. And I know I'm speaking for all of Peter's friends when I say that all of our childhoods ended that day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. Thank you. Next witness is Gabe Amarita.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and be seated. And when you're seated, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Gabriel Amarata. My last name is spelled Ammmirata.
Good afternoon, Mr. Amarata. Are you a friend of Peter Wang and his family?
I am.
And did you prepare a statement to share with us today in court?
Yes.
Would you please read it for the jury?
My name is Gabriel Amarata. I attended elementary school, middle school, and high school with Peter, as a close friend. With his family being my second family, I'd like to talk about the impact of friends. Friendship is the crux of my testimony today, and I will represent not just my friendship, but other close friends he had as well. These small stories are not all of them, but I hope they will be enough for you today. From Connor. I remember the first day in 7th grade, and it was my first year at Sawgrass Springs Middle. I remember being so anxious that I missed a step walking down the stairs, leaving 7th period. But instead of falling on my face, I was caught by none other than Peter. After saving me from that fall, Peter made sure I was okay, then introduced himself to me. From that point on, Peter always had my back. And if anyone would try to mess with us, Peter would always be first person to stand up for us. Even after switching schools, he would actively stay in touch and check up on me. It meant a lot. One of my favorite memories is when Peter showed up at our school on the last day of middle school just to spend the day with us. Peter was not just a friend, he was a brother. And I will never forget him or his legacy. From Liam. Peter Wang was one of my best friends throughout middle school and helped me get through it a lot easier. Every day after middle school, we would walk together down a road where I would eventually get picked up by my mom, and he would keep walking down to his house that wasn't far away. And every single time, he couldn't fail to invite me to stay over or keep me company until my mom picked me up. He wasn't just a great friend, he was also an amazing brother, cousin, and son. Through the numerous times that he had invited me and his other friends to his house to hang out, he had never failed to include his younger siblings and cousins so that they weren't left out. And the whole time that I would be at his house, I could see that he was respectful and kind to his parents. All these years later, I realized that Peter doesn't come by very often, or even at all. He was truly special. I love and miss Peter Wang. From Jordan. I remember on the last day of middle school, he came into our history class. Even though he attended a different middle school, he thought everyone would have a funny and surprised reaction to his return. Our teacher did not realize his presence till he raised his hand and said, "Do you remember me?" Our classmates missed Peter, and were so glad to see his happy self. He's the type of person to be on your side no matter what, and have a positive view on everything. I truly love that about him. His laugh is one of the only things I can remember clearly. It was pure and filled with joy. From Rachel. In the time I was friends with Peter, we had so many happy times together. One memory that sticks out to me was at school lunch. The day I forgot my food, Peter couldn't wait to run to the vending machine to get me a snack and drink. I didn't even ask him, but he went out of his way to get me my favorite snack and drink, which is one of Peter's best traits. It wasn't something that was extraordinary. It was just typical Peter. He was the most selfless friend anyone could have. He always knew how to put a smile on my face, or make me laugh. On the memorable day, we would say goodbye for the day, which would end up being our last goodbye forever. That memory was the last time I saw him. From me. Starting in middle school, each year in August, we'd meet up to pick our textbooks and class schedules, and our classes never lined up. Maybe a lunch here and there, but never a shared class or elective. I would try and convince him to do some music electives, and he would always try and convince me to do art or PE. After a 3-year gap, to my surprise, we had one class on our schedules together in high school. English 1 honors, 7th period. From him having such a hard time with English, given his Mandarin was mostly in use in his home environment, this was an impressive feat. An incredibly fun class, where we talk it up, share our various paragraphs, and laugh at the obscurity of 1968's Romeo and Juliet. That was our class, and then it wasn't. I got my sophomore, junior, and senior schedules. Each year in August, from then on, our classes never lined up. I finished high school with some of my highest marks in English classes to make up for the lost time that he couldn't have with me in that class. Cherish your friendships. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emerald. Okay. Debbie Hickson.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can be seated. And when you're seated, please state your full name.
My name is Deborah Ann Hickson, Hixon.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Hickson. Are you the wife of Christopher Hickson?
I am.
And I'd like to show you what's been marked. The State's Exhibit 68. It's been marked into evidence. Can you identify this, please?
Yes, that's my husband, Chris Hickson.
Would you please show it to the jury? Thank you. Mrs. Hickson, was Christopher Hickson the athletic director and the campus monitor at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School on the date of the incident in this case?
Yes, ma'am, he was.
Thank you. And did you prepare a statement to be shared in front of the jury today?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Would you please read it for us?
Chris Hickson was a father of 2 sons, Tommy and Corey, a husband, a son, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a cousin, and a friend. He was also the security monitor and athletic director at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. His loss did not only affect our family, it affected the entire community, as he was a mentor to many of his peers and many students, as well as a coach for many years at various schools across Broward County. We all miss him. We miss his smile. We miss his crabbiness. We miss his compassion. But mostly we miss the sense of safety and security that he gave to everyone around him. For our family, his loss has left a hole in our very tight family unit, one that will never be filled. He was not just a father to our special needs son, Corey. He was his best buddy. They were always together, and our life centered around the athletic activities Chris and Corey were involved in. He was not just my husband, but my life partner. He was the person I planned my entire adult life around. All of my plans, my dreams, they were centered around the life we made together that began in 1988. He was my best cheerleader and my strongest critic, always pushing me to be the best version of myself. Nothing is the same now. Music, parties, food, TV shows. I just can't seem to really enjoy anything the way that I used to. The house that we shared doesn't feel like the home that we built because home meant Chris. Going to an empty bed is a constant reminder that he's gone. The night no longer brings intimacy and comfort, just the loudness of the silence. Chris will always be the love of my life, and I am blessed for the amazing life that we shared. We made a beautiful family together, and I will be forever grateful to him for making my life such an adventure. But I'm heartbroken that our journey ended too soon. We weren't done making memories, sharing our dreams, or living our life together. I would like to take a moment to tell you why Chris was so special. He played a variety of sports in high school, and although he was not the superstar on the team, he was always the most dedicated. After he graduated from high school, he joined the Navy and spent the next 6 years of his life serving our country as an active duty sailor. It was in 1998 that we met at a wedding of a mutual friend, and we were married on July 14th of 1990. In 1991, he was deployed to the Persian Gulf to serve in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He transitioned into the Naval Reserves in 1992 and retired from the reserves in 2013. He loved being in the Navy and was so proud to serve his country. In the later part of his reservist service, he was trained and served as a military police officer, something he was very proud of. In the first 8 years of our marriage, we not only began our own family, but we also took care of my mother, who was bedridden for 5 years, and my grandmother for the next 3 years, who had Alzheimer's. Chris never complained about sharing our home and life with them, and he always was there to help take care of them and support them in any way that he could. Once Chris got out of the Navy in 1992, he began his employment with the school board as a maintenance worker, and a few years later he was offered the position of security monitor and athletic director at Blanche Ely High School. This job would mean that he would take a cut in pay, but he really wanted to be able to work with students and share his passion of sports with them, so he took the job. He was passionate about sports and loved sharing that passion with his athletes. He was a great leader to his coaches and a true role model for the athletes. If there was a sport that didn't have a coach, he would step in without getting paid and serve as the coach. Being an athletic director meant he spent a lot of time at school and away from home, but he always included our children in his activities so that they could spend time together. Corey misses this special time with his dad. He loved going to games with him and being his special assistant. Chris stood out as a security monitor through the respect and care that he had for the students. He understood that sports were important in the students' lives, and he used it as a way to teach them life lessons. Teamwork, conflict, camaraderie, discipline, perseverance, and commitment. All skills that would help them become successful in life after high school and sports. He knew students and student athletes on a personal level, as he was always roaming the halls and talking to them about their school life and home life. If a student forgot their lunch money or couldn't afford it that day, he would give them money to ensure they ate. If they needed a pencil or a notebook, they could always get one from his office. But most importantly, If they just needed someone to talk to, he was there to listen and help guide them in the right direction. His loss has left us broken. We have a void in our lives that will never be filled. He was an extraordinary man living an ordinary life, and everybody who was lucky enough to have a relationship with him is better because of it.
Thank you. Statesman call Corey Hickson. Hello, Mr. Hickson.
Tell her.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask him his name, Judge? You can.
Okay.
Corey,
Yes.
do you want to raise your right hand?
No.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. Now, will you turn around and tell the jury your name? These ladies and gentlemen right there. Tell them what your name is.
Corey Hickson.
Good afternoon. Mr. Hickson, is your father Mr. Christopher Hickson?
Yeah.
And is there something that you'd like to tell the jury about your dad?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's okay.
I missed him.
Is there something about donuts that you want to tell us?
What was your favorite thing to do with Daddy?
Yeah.
Tell him.
You can tell us.
Every Saturday we went to Denny Donuts and walked back.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll need a few minutes for the next witness.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we just need to set up, the next witness is going to testify via closed circuit TV. and we just need a few minutes to set the equipment up. So please, we'll take a very short recess, and please leave your notepads behind. Please do not discuss the case. You all know the rules by now. Thank you. The jurors have been excused. Everyone else may be seated. Ms. McCann, is there anything that you need me to do?
I'm going to have to ask Aaron that question.
Okay. I could probably take a look at his identification ahead of time,
Okay.
so that I can swear him in. He's going to bring.
I think we should probably swear him. Just
I appreciate that, but I think that I have to identify him by some way. Whatever you need to do.
okay. Thank you.
So, but we know how the jury's going to see this person, right?
Should be coming up now.
Okay, I can see him. So, I think he's
Yeah,
muted.
he can see you now. He should be able to see you.
It says, sir, can you unmute yourself, Mr. Hickson? There.
Yes.
Okay, great. Can you see me?
You're kind of quiet, but I can hear you.
So, how about now? Can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Just a little bit? What microphone do I speak in?
That one.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, how about now?
Better.
I haven't done the whole Zoom thing in a while, so bear with me.
No worries.
Sir, would you please do me a favor and put your driver's license or identification up on the screen so that I can have a look at it, identify you, and then... Now I remember the Zoom problems because I can't see it. You might have to hold it
Oh,
down.
sorry.
No.
Hold on, let me unblur the background real quick.
Okay. You might have to hold it back just a bit towards you. A little closer maybe? Now I remember, this is what Zoom was like. Okay. Any suggestions for my tech people? Because I can't do that.
Except for the Zoom in it.
I just have to read the first one. I see the picture. I recognize that's you.
But the thing is, this camera is on his.
Okay, does it say Thomas Emmanuel Hickson?
Yes.
And would you just hold it over just a little bit? H250-825-92045, Florida driver's license. Is that correct?
Sorry, can you say that again?
That's okay. I was just saying, this is your Florida driver's license number H250-825-920450.
Correct.
Okay, so I've identified the individual by his driver's license. So we won't need that anymore. You can go ahead and put it away. And then when the jury comes back in, I can swear you in now that I've seen your identification.
Judge, as a preliminary matter,
Thank you.
in order to comply with the Aspenu case, I want to ask Mr. Hickson if he can see the defendant and the defense table. Are you able to see the defendant and the defense table, Mr. Hickson?
I don't think he heard you. Did you hear the prosecutor speaking to you, sir?
No, I can't hear from that far away.
Is the mic on? Your mic is on?
We're trying to figure this out. I apologize. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
It was on green. Can you hear me, Mr. Hickson? No.
Testing, testing. Can you hear that?
No.
Can't hear.
It's okay. I can sort of read your facial expressions and know that you can hear it now.
Mr. Hickson, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. In order to comply with this case, the Aspenu case, I'm going to ask Mr. Hickson if he can see the defendant and the defense table clearly.
Yes.
You can. And do you see where the defendant is seated?
Yes, second from the left on my screen.
Okay. And I'm going to ask the defendant if he could see the witness, Mr. Hickson, in the screen.
Okay, Mr. Cruz, can you see Mr. Hickson in the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you hear him?
And can the defense team see Mr. Hickson in the screen in order to comply with the Aspenu case?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, can you bring the jury back
Yes,
in?
please.
All right, sir, give us just another minute or two. We're going to bring the jurors back in, okay? Mr. Hickson, can you hear me? He can hear me now.
No, you should hear.
Mr. Hickson, I can tell. He can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Okay. Maybe there's a delay.
I'm going to crank your volume up.
I'll stand.
Try it again with him.
Mr. Hickson, we're doing a test. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. As soon as the jurors come in, I will swear you in, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Does Judge Tudor always have to lean in like this? Okay, the jurors are present. Everyone else may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you should be able to see a young man in a blue suit on your screens. Raise your hand if you do not see that person. Okay, there's no one that has their hand raised. I'm speaking louder than normal because I have to make sure the witness can hear me, and I'm going to go ahead and swear him in. Sir, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Thomas Emmanuel Hickson, Hixon.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hickson.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Hickson, you're appearing by Zoom, is that correct?
Yes.
And can you see me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Hickson, are you the son of Christopher Hickson?
I am.
And did you prepare a statement to be read in front of the jury for these proceedings?
I did.
Will you please share it with us now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chris Hickson, to me, was first and foremost my father. But he was also a husband, a brother, an uncle, a godfather, a nephew, a cousin, a coach, a mentor, and a friend to many. While my dad held many titles throughout his life, a title that he will never get to hold now is grandfather. As my wife and I begin to start our family, my children will have to grow up without ever meeting their grandpa. Instead, they will be relegated to only knowing him through pictures and stories. This fact is something that has weighed heavily on my wife and I over the last 4 years. The loss of my dad has weighed heavily on me, and it's something that I have not fully recovered from and likely never will. Growing up seeing my dad serve our country and his community is what inspired me to follow in his footsteps of service. When I commissioned as an officer in the United States Marine Corps, my dad was my first salute. The first salute is a military tradition where a new officer chooses an enlisted member who has mentored them, inspired them, and motivated them throughout their journey to becoming an officer. For me, it was a no-brainer that my dad was that person. The last time he wore his uniform alive was at my commissioning in 2014. It was the same uniform that he was buried in 4 years later. The burden and honor of prepping his uniform for his funeral fell to me, taking hours to get it ready as it was never good enough for me. The creases not sharp enough, the awards not placed perfectly enough, the neckerchief knot never square enough, and the shoes not shined enough. A part of me knew that this was my way of saying goodbye, and I wasn't ready to do that. Military service was a bond we shared as father and son, and I was a better Marine and leader because of everything he taught me growing up. He served his country in uniform for 27 years as a member of the United States Navy, and he served just as long as an employee of Broward County Public Schools. As an athletic director and security monitor for 3 Broward County Public Schools over his career, my dad was able to teach, mentor, and inspire thousands of kids over his 26 years. He was known for being strict but fair in both of these capacities, yet he was also caring and took care of students who needed his help. While his caring was proven time and time again, they were particularly evident when he agreed to take in not 1, but 2 students who would have likely had to drop out of high school had he and my mother not taken them in during their time of need. His love of sports and the character it can teach kids and young adults was what he loved most about his job as an athletic director. But he also knew that academic success was just as important for these student athletes and strived to ensure that they knew that as well. His caring attitude also extended into his security monitor position, where he always strived to be the first person on the scene so he could help students no matter what was going on. Despite being in a position of authority as an adult working in a school, he strived to earn the respect of students instead of demanding it, a key aspect of any great leader and mentor. He did this by showing up to every sporting event he could and coaching sports that students couldn't find a coach for. Even though this meant many nights of reheated dinners in the microwave when he finally got home, to him it was worth it to be of service to his student athletes. My dad was an extraordinary man who lived an ordinary life, and he made a difference in the lives of countless numbers of students, friends, and family. He had given so much to his family, his country, his community, and his students, yet he still had so much more to give. His death has had and will continue to have a ripple effect on our family, our friends, and our community. Even though he should still be here with us making memories, he will always be remembered for his courage, his bravery, his leadership, his humility, and his humor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hickson.
Thank you, sir. Sure. State, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, state rests.
Okay, members of the jury, the state having rested its case, I am going to excuse you for the day and actually until August 22nd. You were given an August calendar. You were also given a tentative September calendar, as well as a documented note or judge's order for your employers. It also states on that order when you're going to be expected to return. I do want to tell you this, that I instruct you, I give you a version of these instructions, sometimes a modified version, but I'm going to read to you and instruct you on a few more things, only because I'm not going to see you for 2 weeks. We're about to recess. Now, during recesses, you know, as I've told you time and time again, you may not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. This applies to the entire recess. You may not conduct any investigation on your own. I understand there was a jury view today of the crime scene. You may not return to that crime scene. You may not attempt to look up photographs or look up any information other than what was presented to you in this courtroom. There's nothing else for your consideration. And what has been presented to you in this courtroom is based upon your own individual memories. It's not a collective group effort at this point. Now, when you retire to deliberate, then you will be able to discuss the case. But at this point, we're not there yet. We're not even close. You cannot discuss this case. You cannot read newspapers, watch television, or use a computer or other electronic device or any means at all to get information about the case or the people and places involved. This applies during the entire recess, whether you are at home, whether you're at the Publix, or anywhere else. Taking a walk in your neighborhood. Somebody may have found out on the jury. You may not discuss it. You must not visit any places that have been mentioned during the course of this trial, which would be the high school. You may not do any independent research. You must not and may not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. So, do not let even the closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about what's happened during this trial, whether it be today or any other day. Do not discuss this case or ask for advice by any means whatsoever, including but not limited to posting information on an internet website, chat room, or blog, or newspaper comment section, or any place at all. Please, I stress to you this is of the utmost importance. Okay, other than that, and also, one other thing. Remember that if somebody attempts to approach you, you have to tell them to leave you alone, that you cannot discuss it, and you must report the matter. You all have my office business card and my assistant's number. If you need to email us after hours, leave a message, that's fine. We will check up on those things. At this point, I do want to thank you all very much for your patience today. You have been a very patient and very considerate jury, and I really want to say, on behalf of myself and all of the staff, we very much appreciate that. Other than that, you have the note for your employers. You have the calendar of when you need to return. Other than that, everyone is excused. Thank you again for your time and attention. Have a safe drive home, and I'll see you on August 22nd. The jurors have been excused. You all may be seated. And let me just say this. For the evidence that the state has introduced but is not seeking to publish to the jury, you all can go ahead and make a list of those documents or items. And my intention is when I read the final instructions to the jurors and I instruct them about how the evidence, some of it will go back to the jury room and so on and so forth, I would at that time just let them know that these numbers are not of your concern, in case there's somebody who's writing down every single number, which is not likely, I don't think, but you never know, so that they won't be back there looking for the particular number and thinking it's missing. So that would be my intention, just to reiterate, to instruct them that these numbers are not for your consideration. So if you've been keeping track, they're not missing, they're just not for your consideration.
So I just have one question.
Sure.
And the state may have an answer for this, but on S-19, which is the exhibit that has all the videos on it,
Okay.
The state is seeking to withdraw a couple of those videos.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering if this jump drive is going to go back with the jury, will you just redact them off of this and then make it part of the court file?
Well, we hadn't gotten to that point yet. In the past, in trials, the state has provided like a wiped computer that does not have any of their apps and their logo, the state attorney's office. It's just like a completely clean computer. Both sides and myself go through the computer at the beginning and then make sure it's, doesn't have anything on it other than the ability to play certain evidence. And then that goes back to the jury room. We haven't gotten there yet. I don't know if that's what the state intends to do in this trial. If it is, then I would suggest a substitute zip drive be made at some point, reviewed by all the parties, by both parties and myself, to make sure it comports with the evidence that is to be presented to the jury, and we send that back. Or we can do it the old-fashioned way, where we bring them back in here and we play the evidence here. It's always been my preference to send everything back with them, but I'll leave that up to you all.
To answer the defense question, I believe what we would do is provide a substitute thumb drive of the videos that were played to the jury and we wish to play. The original 19, happy to put it in as a court exhibit so that it's just part of the court exhibit. As a court exhibit, but not for evidence for the jury, so there's no question as to what was in evidence and what is now in evidence.
Understood. I'm agreeable to that.
Okay, so I think that settles that.
Well, they just want, I don't want to speak for you, but I think they want to just verify what we're saying, and when they do that, we'll provide the list. I think we can work it out.
You mean they just want to cross-reference, you want to cross-reference with your records which items the state is asking not to publish?
Correct.
Okay, but I don't think that has to be done today. I think you all can come to an agreement, let me know, so I have them. When I read the final instructions, I'll instruct them as I've said, and then we can, I think there's computer stuff back there, but I would have to see how it would work. There's a computer in the jury room, and it's empty. But right. So we would do the same process. We would go through it, make sure it doesn't have anything inappropriate on it, which I assume it wouldn't.
What we can do, it's unlike the photographs that you're going to do with the numbers.
Right.
Well, this was just one exhibit, S-19. So what we can do is we can eliminate the ones we didn't play.
Okay.
And give a copy to Ms. McNeil and the defense.
They won't know what they're missing, because it's all contained in the same composite exhibit.
They would play it, and they would know what...
No, but I mean, the jurors won't know that... I don't have to tell them that certain things were withdrawn, because they...
No, they just know S-19.
Got it.
And S-19 will be what we all agree it should be, okay? Anything else for today?
It's only, no, I'm just talking.
No, that's okay.
It's just that one case.
not to our fine house.
Okay,
No, I'm just thinking.
No, ma'am.
okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to see if there's anything else that needs to be addressed today before we recess.
Nothing from the defense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
We're in recess. Thank you all very much.